Hey everybody out there, this is Nathan here at the Gold Cove just outside of Detroit, Michigan. We're in Roseville, 25555 Gratiot. Come check us out. Listen, I want you guys to watch carefully because we're going to have a great video today. Hope you agree. I mean, I'm kind of self-accolades there, but hope you agree that it's great because that's all that really matters. We're going to have a little discussion about like pawn shops, right? Pawn shops, coin shops. And we might even throw We Buy Gold shops in there. I don't know if you have seen the emergence of We Buy Gold shops in your area, stores that have opened up just for the sake of buying gold from the public now that it's high, maybe in the recent year or two. But here at the Gold Cove, we are a coin shop. We do some other things, right? We'll buy jewelry, but we are primarily a coin shop, and we deal in precious metals and bullion. So let me say this: we're a coin shop and a bullion shop. And sometimes when people come in here, they might even say something like, "Oh, I've never been in a pawn shop before," and so we kind of get lumped in with the pawn shop, that whole sector. And so I want to talk today. I got some notes. I'm going to need them about pawn shops and why you would do business with a pawn shop or a coin shop, or why you wouldn't. And actually, I want to hear from you guys. I know in some of the small towns in rural America, you may not have a coin shop, and the pawn shop might be your only outlet. If that's the case, go ahead and jump in the comments for me and let the rest of us know like what your experience is with pawn shops. Have you been able to build relationships there? Do you find it a good place of commerce for you as a stacker or a coin collector? And just jump in there and let us know your experiences. The pawn shops have a way different model than we do, right? And so they're in the lending business. They want to loan money. And most pawn shops, I believe, on the very, very low end are making 30%. And when they figure in those other fees and charges and holding costs, I think they're making 50, 60, 70% returns. So when they buy coins or precious metals, it's tough for them to make just the little margins that coin shops are standard at a coin shop. And so sometimes you'll go in there, and I've had people that come into my shop and they want to sell, let's say it's a 1 ounce gold Crew Grand. And let's say I offer them $4,000 based on where the market is at the day, right? I make an offer of $4,000 and they might say, wow, I just came from a pawn shop and they offered me $3,000. And so you do have to be careful to know what you're doing if you go to a pawn shop to sell or buy. But at the coin shop, we have a certain level of integrity that we have to protect. People have to have faith and believe in us that they're coming to get a good price. At the pawn shop, I'm not saying they're not integrous. They just work on different profit margins than a coin shop does. I also think if you go to a pawn shop, maybe this video is like convincing you to come to a coin shop and not a pawn shop. I don't know, because I'm going to beat on them a little bit from the bullion coin aspect. If you go to a pawn shop, it may be less likely, especially if it's a bigger shop, that you can have much personal, intimate relationship with somebody there. We talked about like they may have a low payout. I think that is generally the case. When you look at coins and bullion, they're going to pay out pretty low. Also, it looks, if you bring in a numismatic coin, that's a Morgan dollar, that's $50, $60 worth of silver, but it could be worth $900 because it's a rare coin, superb grade and rare coin. You're less likely to get them to pay up for that versus at a coin shop. You might have them pay $800 for a $900 coin. At a pawn shop, they might pay $200 or less. They might just want to buy it for silver. You're also going to find when you go to a pawn shop, now there's some outliers. I see some of these guys, I think there's one I see on YouTube. It's a pawn shop. They do a lot of coin business and whatnot stuff. And they're pretty knowledgeable, right? But in general, they know a lot. They know a little bit or a lot about a lot of things, but they're not going to be super expert in like coins, in bullion. And so they're going to have a limited knowledge base. Here's a pro. Here's a big pro. You could go to pawn shops that they're not really making a living selling bullion or coins. And because they may pay out pretty low, you could develop a relationship where you're getting screaming deals from a pawn shop. Actually, I've had guys come in here that were wealthy people that were big buyers, and they were kind of hustlers, and they would go to the different Detroit pawn shops and have relationships. And they say, well, I got a buddy in Detroit has a pawn shop, and I can buy these for $1 under melt, or whatever that case might be. I can buy these for spot or under spot, different times that we've been here that I've heard from those guys. And so a pawn shop, since they're paying low, sometimes they can sell low. It's also not uncommon that you will run into pawn shop owners. This is probably more so when the price was lower. They're like, yeah, we just don't sell. I buy things from the public and I throw it in my personal safe as the pawn shop owner. You might find legal issues, right? So if you want to sell at a pawn shop, they might have different legal conformities, write-ups, holding things for longer. There'll be some legal things that they have to adhere to that a coin shop does not. I don't know what else. I will say this, in my area, probably the most, let me say prestigious, I don't know, the heaviest hitter coin shop that I know of in my area is not us. They're a little ways off, but they have a pawn license. I don't think anybody would look at them as a pawn shop, but they have a pawn license. And what that enables them to do, I think really benefits them. They're heavy into jewelry and things like that, estate jewelry. It really benefits them to loan money on exquisite pieces that somebody probably would never really want to sell. And then they obtain that if somebody just defaults or forgets about it or says, it's not that important to me, I'll let it go. But maybe it's a Rolex watch that they're like, I wouldn't really sell this Rolex watch, but they'll pawn it and then just never redeem it. So now that coin shop owns it. Same thing with like signature, exquisite estate jewelry. And so in that respect, from a business owner like myself, it could be beneficial to have a pawn license because you'll get things that you otherwise wouldn't get. I'll also say if you go to a pawn shop and you got stuff that you don't want to sell, you can pawn it. And that means you can get it back. If you come to the coin shop and sell it, it's gone. You can buy something back, you're going to pay but it could not be the same thing that you sold. It could have family meaning or history behind it. You really don't want to sell it. And if the pawn shop loans out a high enough rate, that's a big benefit. You could pawn something with them and with the full intention and ability to get it back someday. Whereas here, if you bring it in, good chance we're going to sell it before you would come and get it back. I will say this, in my early days before I had a coin shop, I would travel around different shops and buy things, and I never had great luck at pawn shops. I would do well at like We Buy Gold stores, right? I could go into We Buy Gold shops where they would buy jewelry, they'd buy coins, they'd buy bullion, and their job was just to wholesale it and get rid of it and make a profit. And so I could establish relationships and buy from them at a better rate than I could at a coin shop. So there's the ability to do that sometimes. Very unpredictable. There's no variety that way. Just take what you can get, take what they got. We have pawn shops in our area, a handful of them, and jewelry shops that will buy some of the same things that we'll buy, but then they don't have a market to sell it, so they'll bring it to us. And so if you have a way to figure out like, well, they're going to sell it to a coin shop, how can I be the coin shop to them, establish a relationship and buy from them, that sometimes could work. But if they can sell it to us at a profit, and we're still going to buy it at a rate that we can make a profit on, imagine how low they're paying to get that item. And I don't know, Caleb, do you anything you can think of in just the contrast between a pawn shop and a coin shop and why you would do business at either one?
Have you ever found it difficult to deal with a pawn shop?
Well, since I've been the Gold Cove, not really, but I will say like in my early days when I ran the streets and I was just accumulating, buying things, you could walk into a coin shop and pay retail. You could walk into a coin shop and build relationships and try to buy what they're motivated to sell, and that would be great. I would go into coin shops every week. I would go into We Buy Gold shops every week. Not so much pawn shops. I tried pawn shops, and what I got a lot of times, I think probably silver was in the teens at this point, and gold was, under 2,000 an ounce, maybe even just barely over 1,000. But I always got pushback like, well, the owner keeps everything. And so, yeah, we do have some coins and some bullion, but the owner just puts it in his personal safe, not really interested in selling it. I remember this one time I went to a pawn shop, it's about 40 miles away, and they started dragging all this cool stuff out of the safe. And I'm like, okay, I'll take that. And how much for this? And I'll take that. Put together some things. I think it was like $5,000, and back then, now you get an ounce of gold, it's $5,000. But back then you could get a couple ounces of fractionals and different coins and things. And so we came to the total, and then they put tax, and they charge 6% tax, which just blows it up, right? I mean, a lot of times if you can buy something at spot, that's fine. 6% is high. And so I didn't end up doing that deal after I'd spent, 30 minutes, an hour talking to whether it was the manager or the owner, and they were pulling things out, and we agreed. And I'm like, no, there's no tax on this stuff here in Michigan. And they're like, well, that's policy. We charge tax. And so that was a bad experience that I had with a pawn shop. I can't really tell you that I ever had great luck as a buyer at pawn shops. Now, I know things are probably different today. I have a few pawn shops close by. I know one of them has at least one showcase that they'll put some things out in. I also had a customer come in like 2 weeks ago, and she had these silver commemoratives. So the U.S. Mint silver commemoratives, they're not an ounce, they're 90% silver. She was selling me some bullion, and I pulled these aside. I said, these I would pay whatever. It was $45, $50, I don't know. She goes, why so low? Well, they're an ounce, right? And I said, no, they're not an ounce. And they're this. And she said, well, I bought them at the pawn shop as an ounce. And so sometimes you'll run into they don't even really know exactly what they have, how to price it, how to sell it. And I'll tell you, they're not real good with fakes either. And I'll have people that have come in here, and I'm not saying always, right? I don't want to get a bunch of pushback like, hey, I own a pawn shop, and we operate like a coin shop in some areas, or my pawn shop's great. I'm sure they're out there. But my experience, and I think generally, they're not as well at picking out fakes as like a coin dealer is. That's my experience with pawn shops. Caleb, anything else you can think of that I should hit on or touch on?
Maybe about their quantity that they have in stock.
Sure. Yeah, that's a great one. So if you like to pick around the edges and it's more important for you to get a deal, buy small things at a pawn shop, you might be able to get those deals, like I said, because they don't have a strong retail base. And if they want to move some things, you could get a deal on that, especially now that gold and silver are high. But if you were a guy like, I want to buy 500 ounces, 500 eagles or 10 gold eagles, I mean, you probably are going to have a hard time going into a pawn shop to fulfill a good size order, make a large purchase. But it's not unheard of that you're on the call list, right? And so, hey, ring, the pawn shop's calling like, hey, Steve, I just got 3 gold eagles in. Do you want them? And it's at this rate. And they might sell them at spot or even under spot or a refinery rate because they buy low. And that would be a cool thing if you are really on the cutting edge of relationships and hustling and running and gunning. But I think in general, if you want to go in on demand and buy 1,000 ounces or 400 ounce bars or a quantity of this, you're not going to find that at pawn shops. A couple cool things that came in this week. These are pretty common to us, I guess, but I still, whenever they come in, I always think, man, that's pretty cool. 4 proof coins, gold coins from the U.S. Mint. This actually came from a jeweler, a local jeweler in our area who will buy gold and silver coins from his customers when they come in and doesn't have a great outlet for it. And the same jeweler in the old days might just buy it and put it in his safe, but now gold is so high, I think I might have paid like $25,000 for these 3. So it's hard on a jeweler now to buy this stuff, set it aside, and just keep it as personal. They want to move it. And no boxes. They didn't come with the hard cardboard box. No big deal. At this point in time, it's basically just bullion. And again, this isn't like, oh my gosh, it's super rare and classic and great, but it is cool, right? It's fun. It's cool to see that presentation. Another thing, a guy come in and sold a bunch of these 100-gram Valcambi bars. Man, I think we had a few of these a couple weeks ago, and they went really fast and kind of at a pretty steep premium. And I actually, I know my sons were doing a whatnot the other day, and they were breaking up these gold maple grams. I said, no, don't break that up. And they were breaking up the gold maple grams and selling them individually, where a lot of times people like this sheet, and you could sometimes sell it more like that than if you just broke up the Valcam because of the entirety of the whole there. But I think that's it for today's video. I appreciate you guys watching. I appreciate you guys supporting us. Go ahead and get in the comments if you've been into pawn shops, what your experiences are with that. If you own a pawn shop, refute what I'm saying. Yeah, if you have relationships there, just let us know. If you're in small town South Dakota and that's all you got is a pawn shop, you got to make it work, right? So thanks guys for watching. Please like the video, subscribe to the video, and let's get some back and forth if you got something good to say. All right, guys, have a great weekend. We'll see you around.
Thank you guys for watching our videos, subscribing to the channel, and liking our content. We are truly enjoying this journey on YouTube with all of you, and I hope you guys are as well. Be sure to be subscribed to the channel and notified on all of our content. And most importantly, buy precious metals, and don't forget to check out Cameron's whatnot called Gold Cove Cam on there. Things are going way too cheap. It's exciting. It's fun. I'm on there. Pops is on there. Cams is on there. And yeah, don't forget to, throw in some suggestions in the comments down below of what you want to see. Or if you want to be on film, please also let us know. Take care, everyone. We appreciate y'all. Have a great day.